Good morning, traders. It's 8:02 a.m. Chicago time on Wednesday, the 9th of November, 2022. Thanks for joining me this morning on episode what? 2354. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. And here we dive into the pre-market summary sheet as we do every day. We're looking at a market. What is going on here? We're looking at a market that is mild risk off this morning. We see that the Russell's leading us down. In fact, the Russell yesterday, if you watched the Russell, seemed weak right from the start. It ended up rallying, but this morning we see clearly that it is really leading down back to 1800 in the Russell. Everything is off this morning. The S&P, although off, is still inside of yesterday's range. Big reversal yesterday with a lower high on the close. We'll look at that in a minute. Relatively bearish action now that we've achieved the key target above. What's on deck? You have the midterm election, the U.S. midterm elections, the blue wave, the red wave, the nonsense partisan BS crap that people seem to be drinking up didn't happen. It pretty much seems pretty much the same, I would think, so far, but there are some key seats still up for grabs. We won't find out about them potentially for days, especially Senate seats. See, does the Senate remain in the Democratic Party's hold, or does it move to Republicans? It seems that the Republicans took the House with strong potential. I have not looked at this morning's reports on that. So more seats are undetermined. Yesterday, a major event yesterday occurred in the crypto space. Not sure if you saw what happened to Bitcoin there. Bitcoin took out the swing low of around 17,575 and went to 17,500 on what looks like a failure by FTX, and FTX holding a large amount of debt that was securitized with its own token, and all of a sudden the value of that evaporated. FTX fell. There were huge numbers of withdrawals on FTX and into Binance. Binance went into a deal to buy FTX. If you remember, FTX was a major player. In fact, FTX was so big, it was trying to convince Congress and the CFTC to become a futures clearing firm or a direct exchange to customer type of play in the future space, and that's probably going to be on hold. So a lot of money was lost in crypto yesterday, huge amounts. On top of that, Meta is laying off 13% of its workforce, the first ever major layoff by Meta. If you haven't looked at the stock lately, wow. And I don't think I've logged into Facebook in months or years. Maybe I log in for the marketplace and that's it. I just don't use that service, and it will probably help me maintain some privacy if I just remove myself and I just don't contribute to it. But it's a space that most people are seeing negatively, and the stock reflects it. China's latest COVID outbreak and lockdowns, and then we have CPI tomorrow. Very big release tomorrow, and the market is likely to be to treat this as if it's the FOMC today. So that's it. Key earnings. DR Horton really is the major player. We have some after the close, but nothing really significant. The S&P is in balance. The S&P is in balance now. 292,000 contracts have traded. Are these prices updating? Yeah. 292,000 contracts have traded. The inventory is 48% short, and the range is 37.75 points. All of the stats, the metrics for the S&P overnight are relatively normal. The volume is slightly elevated. the point of control shifting a little bit higher than where it was yesterday. But overall, the action is relatively bearish after yesterday's sell-off. Today, what's left on the calendar? Really, not much. There was a monetary policy meeting for the ECB this morning. But what's left here is U.S. wholesale inventories. And then we get crude oil inventories from the EIA, gasoline inventories. Fed's bargain is to speak at 11. And that's really it. 11:30, Cunliffe, and a 10-year auction, which... yeah, I generally don't cover auctions, but there it is. So that's where we stand this morning. Let's take a look at yesterday. So if you recall, this is me from yesterday. This is me now. If you recall yesterday, the expectation is we would open out of range, and the primary scenario is a pullback to 10, looking for a pushback to 10. And then expected an impulse up. And the idea is, again, I've never been good at catching a move before the impulse or deliberately. In general, it happens because I happen to be trading imbalance and we get imbalance and it moves. But I look for the impulse as a signal that the market is changing, the controls is changing hands. And then that sets up a trade in that direction. So was waiting for this impulse yesterday on the pullback. Was looking for a higher low to get in. We did get that. I'll show you what actually happened. But yesterday, pullback to 10 expected. And the key target's 47.50. Once it gets to 47.50, the market has taken back the FOMC sell-off and is in equilibrium from last Wednesday's point onwards before the FOMC. So the market comes back to where it was disrupted last week. That's what was expected. That was the primary scenario. Here's what actually happened. There it is. We managed to open up. We pull back, and you can see the low there is at 38.1075. The IB is 38.1075. I don't know if this is too small for you to look at. And then we get a small impulse higher, and it sets up this really solid entry right here for the run higher. And then we managed to get the 47.50, a little bit of a pullback, and then we push our way all the way up to 38.67. We're now on the other side. So this is what the FOMC looked like. We basically went to the other side of balance from the FOMC announcement and fell right off. This is the crypto news right here. Impulse down, continuation, and then it sets up a pullback into this IB high VWAP sandwich right there for another push lower, and we end up pushing neutral back down into the 3800, and we managed to get through the 3800 through the 37.95, and then we make a turn and come all the way to the other side of the IB, only to finish in the middle. So yesterday was a clear two-way battle. The significant thing to pay attention to from yesterday is that we have the balance attained. So that was the main idea of the day. Balance was attained. We tested the other side, lower high on the retest. We finish inside of the IB. This is a completely balanced condition, despite the fact that the profile is shows a lot of price discovery, good taper on the low. We are in a balanced condition. What this is likely to push into going forward, given that the market has gone up, found sellers, has gone down, found buyers. It has basically grabbed both the highs and the lows. We now clearly see where the highs and the lows are. The highs and the lows of yesterday are very significant, very important levels to pay attention to. You can see the stock zone there. at 65.75 through 67. And then we have our magnet down, or the over underline at 95. These two levels are going to be very important, and anything inside of here is going to be balanced. I don't care if it's a day that opens at the extreme and closes at the extreme. We will be in balance, overlaying the FOMC range. And so that's what we've got today. And in that, coming into today's overnight session, we have more balance, right? It's kind of a jagged balance, but you could see that the market's kind of retracing 75, 80, 90% as we're coming in here. An early line in the sand, the closing low, multiple lows here in the overnight session, and you could see that it held here. This is our LIS early 38.25. If you recall earlier, the target was 38.20, which we hit on the nose the other day, or went through by about a point and a half, pulled back 38.20. 38.25 is now the line in the sand. So what does that mean? That means that when we open today, we need to measure how the performance is by buyers and sellers against that 38.25. If we try to push into the 38.25, even if we push through, but we can't hold, in other words, the bids get weak, sellers come in and hammer it down, we're very likely to take out the overnight low for our overnight stat. That's 38.11. And if so, then we are likely to push towards the 95 very quickly. Remember, tomorrow is the CPI. The market's going to be very nervous about this number. I'm expecting today, even though it has a downward skew, I'm expecting today to be mostly balanced. Okay, so don't burn yourself up trying to catch trends. This is what has happened so far, and you could see that really the auction was just beautiful. FOMC, point of control at the middle. That's the SOC for FOMC. We move away, we gap down, we attempt lower, higher, and then we close basically at the open, like basically a doji type of day. Then the next day we gap up, we test down, we test into the single prints, we don't close all the single prints, and we finish inside of the FOMC day. The next day, if you recall, I was very bullish into 38.20. The reason being that we're back in the FOMC day. And then I said, if we take out the 38.20, then in the next day or two, we're expecting 47.50. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. So Monday, if you go back to Monday's Trader Bite, I talk about the importance of getting to 38.20. And if we do, then I expect a day or two later, we'd get to the 47.50. And we did that yesterday. Mission accomplished. So we are now in the upper balance. Right here, right here. This is the upper balance right here. And so I'm expecting choppity, 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 chop. So calm down in terms of your expectations. Understand that CPI is tomorrow. Said that now for the fourth time. Understand that yesterday's a pretty relatively decently wide-ranging day with buyers and sellers absolutely establishing the extremes of the range. So today is very likely to be an inside day. Even if it pokes through, I don't expect any follow through. Okay, so that's key for today. Looking at the relative delta, pretty weak. We noticed that the relative delta is following the small lots. So already in the overnight session, we see that the overlay is really on top of the small lots. So really it's a market that is adrift. That's what the cumulative delta is saying. And then the intraday chart, you could see very cleanly here that we're inside of the prior overnight range, inside of yesterday's range. And then this overnight session is inside of yesterday's range. So overall, we are balancing out. So don't expect too much. I want to interrupt for a second for those of you, out of courtesy, for those of you who participated in yesterday's event contract polling for charity challenge, to show you the results. the settlement prices are shown on this chart. So this is the results chart. If you want more information, go to itrade.events. If you need more information about trading these event contracts on CME. But, you know, the products were ES, NQ, RTY, CL, and 6E. And we're polling for the question every Tuesday and Thursday between 8:30 and 9:30 Eastern. A lot of you voted yesterday, and your votes were that the ES, NQ, RTY are likely to close above their prior settlement. So we're not picking a price, a settlement price. We're simply asking if we're closing above or below, and that gives me the ability to select a strike that gives us a good R factor to put the trade on. The R factor is very important because of losses. And you voted that it'll close above ES, NQ, RTY the prior day, and then for crude and 6E, it'll likely close below. Here's what I bought. This is in a live Edge Clear account. I bought the 38.50 strike, bought the 11,100 strike, bought the 18.25 strike in the ESNQRTY, and then our plan is not to hold them till the end of the day, which yesterday worked out perfectly because the market ended up turning over and closing below. We're simply going for 2 hours. So I'm going to do a short video to provide you with a plan on how we are trading these. But you see these results. These are verifiable results. These are exactly what's reflected in our in EdgeClear's account statement. Yesterday, the ES, we made $4. The NQ made $9. Notice we buy 4, we get 4. We buy 9, we get 9. The Russell, we bought 8, got 8. And then for crude, we bought 6.5. We actually got 9.25. We managed to get a pretty good exit on that. And then the 6E lost. So we had 4 wins, 1 miss yesterday for a net of $23.15 for a risk of $33.50. So we got 0.69 R. The planned R is 1. We're looking to just gain as much as we have risked. And we, with costs, and you can see costs are right where it says fees. You can see the costs there. With costs, we netted $23.15 for the charity for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital for Cancer for Kids. Look for the vote tomorrow at 8:30 to 9:30 so we could do this again. Let's take a look at what's expected for today. For today, the primary scenario. I knew that the euro wasn't going to work out, and I'm introducing a new feature for that event trading called the veto, and I have the opportunity to veto the poll 1 time a week, and if I lose, I'll donate the $20 that was lost. That could have been won, and if I win, then the charity gets whatever is being won. That is, if I disagree with the consensus on the poll. So I'm looking for an open auction. Look at the point of control in the overnight session. It's at the bottom. It's at the bottom. I'm expecting the low to be taken out. We may see a test of 25 early. Please pay attention to this 25 early on. I'm expecting this to be taken out. I'm expecting us to walk down into the 3,800 below, expecting us to walk there. And then eventually, I expect us to come right back to balance right here. Again, test and hold steady. So I'm looking for us to be in yesterday's range. The secondary scenario is considering imbalance, which I feel is not likely. The imbalance is likely to be to the short side, push to 25, try to squeeze into the 28.29, which is a full session mid, full session VWAP. I expect that it'll see a fair amount of resistance up there, come right back to the open, break, and then make a run for it. And in that situation now, we're looking for it to slide right back into the 37.80 area for the day's range of about 50 points. Okay, so that's scenario 2. Scenario 3 is the opposite. Test below the, let me draw it on here. Scenario 3 is open, test below the overnight range, go into that spike low from yesterday, the excess low, find buyers, come right back to the open, push the 25, 28, and then squeeze back to the upper end of the range where the sell-off started from. The SOC for the sell-off is somewhere in this 59 area, so it might push right back. So the target for this would be 59 up above. That's what I'm looking for today. Just mind your risk, and I'll catch you tomorrow morning. Take care.